So some of the obstacles aren't stop signs. Some of the obstacles are making a way for you to prosper. Some of those things are leading you to a defined appointment. Welcome. So many of us cry out to the Lord and just wonder what is going on in this guy's big old head. He has so many plans for you and others. So it's just like, why am I not seeing progress or action in my life? So today I kind of just want to show you a verse to help you and even help me out during times of uncertainty or just times of trouble. So I hope you have a journal ready. The passage is Habakkuk. Habakkuk is a short read, 3 pages. So for those who have just a short-term attention span, this goes right along with you. But no. So it's just a good book in general. It just goes over the trouble that Habakkuk was going through and what he was seeing in the natural, but God was doing so much more behind closed doors. So before we hop right into it, I suggest you to watch my previous video. I really just touch on the disadvantages and advantages God can put in your life that you may not realize. So I suggest you watch that video first and then come back to this one, because this is kind of a continuation of the last video, but in detail, more details. So I read this recently, as I mentioned, if I didn't mention it before. So let's go over Habakkuk 1, 2, and 4. O Lord, how long shall I cry, and you will not hear? Even cry out to you, violence, and you will not save. Why do you show me iniquity and cause me to see trouble? For plundering and violence are before me. There is strife, and contention arises. Therefore, the law is powerless, and justice never goes forth. For the wicked surround the righteous. Therefore, perverse judgment proceeds. So many times in our life, we might ask God, why is this happening? Why did you take my brother, my sister? Why did you make me foreclose on this house? Why did you even give me this job if you knew I was going to go through this amount of trouble? And so during times like this, it makes you look outward initially, just looking at the circumstance and the actions all around you. But you reflect internally. You reflect, why is this happening to me? But not just that. You reflect on, oh, if I can achieve this, if I can do this, if I can get this house, or if I can go find a house, if I can even do the job, if I can just be the only sibling that can take care of my parents. These are definitely big questions that we ask ourselves internally when facing a big problem. And so we sometimes can lose the sense of confidence and faith when going through tough times like this. Although when reading Habakkuk and going through this passage, God welcomes questions. He wants us to ask the questions, not just to ourselves, but to Him as well. So the worst thing you can do is to blame others or even yourself for everything that you can't control. At the end of the day, you can't control everything in this life. Of course, there are certain things that you can, have the power to change and do, but not everything is going to be your way. The second thing that this verse shows us is that God welcomes questions. He wants to pull you in and be the best shoulder for you to cry on. And there's plenty of other substitutes in this life that we automatically kind of do, such as go on social media, scroll through TikTok, or eat all the food that we want to, or just do random things to try to cope and kind of block out the pain and the frustration. But God doesn't want that. It's nice to go to a friend group and have a friend group there to bounce ideas off of and kind of cope about something happening. It's great, it's amazing. But the real person that you should be going to is Him. He should be your primary source. So Habakkuk 3 and 4 speaks about the world is quite unfair. So if you were a better, hopefully you're not, but if you were a better, do you think you would have any money left over if you had to bet on everything about life? Do you think you would know what's going to happen next, or the next week, or the next month for someone, or even yourself? Do you think you would have a surplus of money, or do you think you would go in the negative? We as people try to attach a number or an item or just anything to a certain group, to a race, to a stereotype, to anything, to have better understanding of what this thing does. You know, we create data to understand those different things. But the thing is, you can't really put someone in a box. I come from a place in a state where if you don't ask the first question, if someone asks you, where'd you go to high school at, that kind of dictates who you are as a person. That kind of dictates your upbringing and just how you are now. And that's not always the case. Data is never sometimes true. Although, yes, it can be true in some certain areas, but there's always what's the word I'm looking for, guys? There's always a blue area. If in comments, please list the word I was trying to mention. There's always a kind of a middle ground where data can't analyze it correctly and feelings can't judge it correctly. It's just something that you have to go by with intuition. So in this life, there's always going to be things that are unfair, where the odds are not weighed in your favor, sadly. I mean, look at me right now. That tells you everything. I don't have to really say much. But it's just like, I think that's also what makes you appreciate life. When you know that you may not be able to get that end goal or progress in this route like someone else did. But I think, just having the creativity in your own mindset to wrap it up in a bow tie and figure out yourself how you're going to get there is what makes life special. Habakkuk 1:5-17 now, to continue. The Lord communicates to Habakkuk, letting him know that I am working behind closed doors. In times of uncertainty or when things seem unexpected, I am there always. He's monitoring every single movement or every single outcome that's happening before your initial step. So God's blessing can catch you by surprise. It can make you even second guess it. There's so many times where people have been through hell and back. And when God bestows a blessing to you, you don't accept it because you're so used to just having negativity and just not succeeding. So for this reason, as it says in the Bible, be open and accept the blessing that God gives you. And another thing would be to have eyes and ears to see. It says this in the Bible as well. You have to have the eyes and ears to see what God is doing in your life. It's not about the actions outwardly, but it's the actions inwardly. This goes back to the beginning. So some of the ways that people may not realize that is because their mind is not steadfast on Him. Again, as it says in the Bible, I'm just giving you guys scripture and Bible. You have to have a steadfast mind to understand what God is doing. When your mind is spread across everywhere and your mind is thin, you won't even see what God is doing. So just focus on Him and give Him your plans. In the latter half of it, God is talking about using a nation that is wicked, that is one of the worst nations to date at that time, and using them for good. So some of the obstacles aren't stop signs. Some of the obstacles are making a way for you to prosper. Some of those things are leading you to a defined appointment. To conclude, Habakkuk goes back to God and asks him a second question. It's normal to have doubts. It's normal to question certain things that's happening in your life, or even question certain things that you're even doing to reach that end goal that you really want. But although you ask those questions, you have to keep in the back of your head that God is always there, and don't lose faith, because faith is the substance of moving to the next step. Because if you don't have faith, you're just going to sit back and be in the same spot forever. Don't let it get the best of you. God can move invisible and visible forces that you might not even see. Stand and be still. Stand there and understand what you're going through, but just cope with it. Bring it all in and understand that this is not the end for you. Don't let the outcomes of the world determine your eternal faith. This is why God looks at the heart and not just at the appearance. The heart and your spirit speaks more volume to your actions. So one of the last verses that I want to give you here today is Ecclesiastes 11:5. I love Ecclesiastes, guys. As you do not know the path of the wind, or how the body is formed in a mother's womb. So you cannot understand the work of God, the maker of all things. Be the vine on a well-planted tree. Sometimes it takes uncertainty to really grow and find yourself throughout all the different seasons. To leave you off with a lasting message, don't just live. Acknowledge life in the current moment. Questions during uncertain times reap a harvest of knowledge. Never be too overwhelmed to sit down and bask in the sun. Thank you guys. If you made it this far, you see that I'm about to get rained out, but I'm still the same old sunshine preaching in the room full of darkness. But it's so funny that at church, the message kind of aligned with what I just mentioned here today. You know, there's so many times of uncertainty and so many times where you think you're not enough. But go to Him and He will direct your steps. Go to Him and believe that no matter what you see in front of you, you know, I am a testament to what's going on in my life right now. Like, you guys just don't understand. But always believe in Him and never back down. Never back down to what someone might say about you. Never back down to certain critics or just certain things that were put on you that were not even meant for you. Keep going, enjoy the process, and acknowledge the life in front of you. Don't just live in it. Thank you guys. My name has been Lennox. Hope you have a great day. See you soon.